On February 24, 2022, Russian forces launched a full-scale invasion of Ukraine. This act of aggression marked a turning point in European history. The conflict has had a profound impact on both countries and sent shockwaves across the globe. It is a war about freedom, democracy, and the right of a nation to choose its own destiny. Ukraine has shown incredible resilience in the face of aggression. The international community has rallied behind Ukraine, providing aid and imposing sanctions on Russia. The human cost of this conflict is immeasurable, with countless lives lost and millions displaced. To understand the current conflict, it is crucial to delve into Ukraine's history, particularly its journey since the collapse of the Soviet Union. After centuries of Russian rule, Ukraine declared its independence on August 24, 1991, marking a pivotal moment in its history. This newfound independence was not merely a political event, it was a cultural and societal awakening. Ukraine, with its distinct language, culture and traditions, embarked on a path of self-determination. The country inherited a complex legacy from the Soviet era, including a substantial Russian-speaking population concentrated in the east and south. Despite the challenges, Ukraine made significant strides in building a democratic society and a market economy. However, its journey was far from smooth, marked by political instability, corruption, and the lingering influence of Russia. The country's strategic location, bordering both Russia and the European Union, made it a geopolitical battleground. As Ukraine sought closer ties with the West, tensions with Russia began to escalate, setting the stage for future conflict. Two pivotal events in Ukraine's recent history, the Orange Revolution of 2004 and the Euromaidan Revolution of 2014, played a significant role in shaping the current conflict with Russia. The Orange Revolution, sparked by a disputed presidential election widely seen as rigged in favor of a pro-Russian candidate, demonstrated the Ukrainian people's desire for democracy and their rejection of Russian interference. The protests, characterized by their peaceful nature and vibrant orange color, forced the government to hold a new election, ultimately leading to the victory of pro-Western Viktor Yushchenko. A decade later, the Euromaidan Revolution erupted in response to then-President Viktor Yanukovych's decision to abandon an association agreement with the European Union in favor of closer ties with Russia. Understanding Russia's motives for the 2022 invasion of Ukraine requires examining the historical narratives and geopolitical calculations that have shaped the Kremlin's worldview. One key factor is the expansion of the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, or NATO, a military alliance formed in 1949, eastward into former Soviet republics. This expansion, seen by Russia as a direct threat to its security interests, has been a source of tension between Moscow and the West for decades. Russian President Vladimir Putin, who has repeatedly lamented the collapse of the Soviet Union as the greatest geopolitical catastrophe of the 20th century, has sought to reassert Russia's dominance in its near abroad. In the lead-up to the invasion, Putin articulated a narrative that questioned Ukraine's legitimacy as an independent nation, claiming that it was an integral part of Russia's historical and cultural sphere. He accused the West of using Ukraine as a pawn to weaken Russia and claimed that the invasion was necessary to demilitarize and denazify the country, baseless allegations that have been widely debunked. On February 24, 2022, the world watched in horror as Russian forces launched a full-scale invasion of Ukraine, marking the most significant military escalation in Europe since World War II. The invasion, which began with a series of airstrikes targeting military installations and critical infrastructure across Ukraine, was accompanied by a ground offensive on multiple fronts. Russian troops crossed the border from Belarus in the north, Russia in the east, and Crimea, which Russia had illegally annexed in 2014, in the south. The Ukrainian people, caught off guard by the scale and ferocity of the attack, responded with a mix of fear, defiance, and determination. The international community swiftly condemned the invasion, with many countries imposing severe economic sanctions on Russia and providing military and humanitarian aid to Ukraine. Section 6. The world responds: sanctions and support for Ukraine. The international community's response to Russia's invasion of Ukraine has been swift and multifaceted, with a focus on economic sanctions, diplomatic pressure, and humanitarian and military assistance. The United States, the European Union, and their allies imposed unprecedented sanctions on Russia, targeting its financial institutions, energy sector, and key individuals, including Putin and members of his inner circle. These sanctions, designed to cripple the Russian economy and pressure Putin to change course, have had a significant impact, but their long-term effectiveness remains to be seen. In addition to sanctions, the West has provided billions of dollars in military aid to Ukraine, including weapons systems, ammunition, and intelligence sharing. This support, crucial for Ukraine's ability to defend itself against a larger and better equipped enemy, has been a lifeline for the Ukrainian armed forces. Section 7. A year of resistance, Ukraine's fight for freedom. In the face of Russia's unprovoked aggression, the Ukrainian people have demonstrated extraordinary courage, resilience, and determination, defying expectations and mounting a fierce defense of their homeland. The Ukrainian armed forces, bolstered by civilian volunteers and territorial defense units, have inflicted heavy losses on the invading Russian forces, effectively utilizing their knowledge of the terrain and receiving crucial military aid from Western allies. The Ukrainian people's resistance extends far beyond the battlefield. Ordinary citizens have taken up arms, prepared Molotov cocktails, and engaged in acts of civil disobedience, demonstrating their unwavering commitment to defending their country. The spirit of resistance has also manifested in the digital realm, with Ukrainians effectively using social media to counter Russian propaganda, document war crimes, and rally international support. Section 8. The human cost of war, a growing crisis. The war in Ukraine has triggered a humanitarian crisis of immense proportions, with devastating consequences for millions of people. The conflict has resulted in thousands of civilian casualties, with the United Nations estimating that over 8,000 civilians have been killed and many more injured. The true number of casualties, however, is believed to be much higher, as access to conflict zones remains limited. The war has forced millions of Ukrainians to flee their homes, seeking safety and refuge in neighboring countries, primarily Poland, Romania, and Moldova. The United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees, UNHCR, estimates that over 8 million Ukrainians have fled the country since the start of the conflict. The humanitarian crisis extends beyond Ukraine's borders, as the war has disrupted global food supplies, exacerbated energy price inflation, and strained the resources of countries hosting Ukrainian refugees. Section 9. The uncertain future, hope for peace, calls for justice. As the war in Ukraine grinds on, the path to a just and lasting peace remains uncertain. Diplomatic efforts to mediate a ceasefire and find a negotiated settlement continue. Russia faces mounting international pressure but shows no signs of abandoning its objectives. Ukraine, emboldened by its resilience, vows to continue fighting until its territory is liberated. The international community faces the task of maintaining pressure on Russia while providing support to Ukraine. This includes holding Russia accountable for alleged war crimes. Despite the challenges, there is hope. The Ukrainian people's spirit and international support offer hope for peace.